Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is your girl Melissa here. I know you guys are used to seeing me behind the voiceovers, but today I am going to do a more talk through video because we are going to be talking about brushes. So as I promised, I wanted to show you guys a video on what brushes I use and what exactly I use it for. So I'm going to be breaking it down step by step. It's going to be very in-depth. We're going to be starting from foundation to the very end of the application, which is lip. So if you have been struggling on what brushes you should buy or what kind of brushes you should buy, because you don't necessarily have to buy it from these specific brands, but I do recommend that you buy these types of brushes so that you can achieve a flawless face. All right, so let us get started. So the very first brush that I recommend that you buy are flat foundation brushes. So first we are going to be talking about foundation painter brushes. Okay, so these are foundation brushes that I use more to apply the foundation, not really to blend it out, because obviously I don't like to apply the foundation with my hand. And when I'm doing a client, I can't necessarily bring the bottle of foundation all over their face. You want to be a little bit more sanitary than that. So I like to use these brushes to apply my foundation. This one I actually got from Shop Miss A. It's a AOA Studio Brush F15. And this one was only $1. And then this one, I actually got it from AliExpress. It's a Pro Foundation brush and the number 47. It's like a Sephora dupe because it also says Sephora on it, but I did not pay that Sephora $1. I got this from AliExpress, and I believe this was about $2. Next, let us move on to what I use to actually blend out the foundations. So to blend out the foundations, I like to use a dense brush. And when I say dense, that means that the bristles are tightly packed together. So they are not so blown out, they're more firm. So this helps to pack on and blend out the foundation without you losing too much coverage. Now, if you wanted a brush that would give you less coverage, you would use like a duo, I think it's called a dual fiber brush or a stippling brush that is not as dense and that doesn't have as much bristles. But you know, we like a good full coverage over here, so I like to use brushes that are more dense to blend out my foundation. To my knowledge, they do not sell the Real Technique Expert face brushes anymore, but I thought I would include them because this is what I do use. But I do have a dupe that I found on AliExpress. Yeah, you see, I got y'all. It's cheap and it works. So we have the Instapop face brush. This is the bigger version. So obviously, if you got like a bigger face or if you have more, you know, circumference to blend, I would use the bigger brush. We have the Instapop cheek brush. If you have a smaller face and you have smaller, hard to reach areas, I would use that. Now, this brush right here is from AliExpress. It's very similar as far as the shape. I feel like this one is a little bit more dense and I like that it's more compact. It's more similar to the cheek brush, but it's a little bit more compact and a little bit more dense. And I feel that it blends out the foundation very, very smoothly. And I feel like it's small enough to get in all the little crevices. It just works perfect. So these are the types of face brushes that I would recommend to blend out the foundation. Okay, so now we're going to move on to cream contour and cream blush. As you can see, when it comes to applying more liquid and cream products, I prefer to use more dense brushes. I find that it's easier to blend out the product one with it, and I'm not gonna lose out on that coverage. If I were to use a brush like this, for example, this is a brush that I would normally use for powder blush. As you can see, the bristles are not as dense. They're not as tightly compact together. They move very freely. I wouldn't necessarily use this to blend out my cream blush or cream contour because it's gonna leave a lot of streaks on the face, and I'm gonna be finding it very hard to get a nice smooth finish when it comes to my cream or my liquid products. This is a Morphe E63 brush. It's a little bit similar to the foundation brushes, but it's just a little smaller, compact version of it. This is a Morphe E8 brush. As you can see, It's more like a rounded shape. And then this one is another AliExpress find. You guys can find brushes from AliExpress, Shein, all of that. So don't knock it till you try it. So this brush is the Sephora foundation, I guess, dupe. This is the same version of the bigger one, but this is just a smaller, more compact version. I really love to use this for cream contour and cream blush. And this is just to show you guys the difference between the bigger one and the smaller one. All from AliExpress. Now we are moving on to concealer, blending out brushes, and highlight. With the exception of this, I use these two brushes to help blend out my liquid concealers. So this is the Real Technique setting brush. You guys should know about this one because this one is a staple in like every MUA kit. This brush, I use it to blend out my cream concealers. I use it to apply powder. I use it to apply highlighter. This is such a multi-purpose brush. And I found another version of it. It's not the exact dupe, but I can still use it for that. This is also a Shop Miss A brush. I believe this was like $1. This is a AOA Studio F19 brush. All right, it's very similar. This one right here, I usually use this to apply my shimmer highlighters. This is a Morphe M510 brush. It's a little bit more loose as far as the bristles. It applies the shimmer highlighters really nice, blows it out and blends it out to my liking, because for the shimmer highlighter, you don't want it to be so packed on. So I like a brush like that. Now let's move on to our contour and blush brushes. As you can see, I have a bigger selection of this because I feel like you can use several different kinds of brushes for contour and blush depending on how you want to apply it. So if I'm looking for a more blown out, not really structured, not really blended contour and blush, I will use a brush like this. As you can see, it's larger as far as size, and it's also very, very fluffy. So it's not as dense, all right? We don't have as much compact bristles. So this will help me to apply my products, my powder products, my blush and my contour and my bronzer in a more blown out fashion. So it's not going to give me that super precise, super compact, super detailed look. It's going to be more blown out. So if you want to go for more like a soft glam, or if you don't like to look super structured, I would recommend a brush like this. This is a blush brush from Real Techniques. You can use it for both blush, contour, and bronzer. All right, so now let's move on to the next Real Technique brush. So this is a brush that you get in a set. I don't believe they sell this brush separately, but I'm just giving you guys this as an example. If I want my contour and my blush to be more precise, right? As you can see, this brush is smaller and it's a little bit more dense. It's not as fluffy as this one. It has more bristles, so it's a little bit more compact. If I want to apply my products more precise, and if I want it to pop a little bit more, to have more coverage and color, I will use something like this. And then now we got another AliExpress find. Y'all know I got you guys. So this one, it's an angled brush. So you can use this for blush, you can use this for contour. I really like this brush because I feel like it fits right where you want it to fit, like right in this little area right here. It's really good to give you that nice chiseled look, but still blown out. So it's like the best of both worlds because it's tapered, so you can put it right here. So I like this brush for bronzer, blush, contour. It's really user friendly. It's number 49. It's not really from Sephora because it says Sephora on it, but AliExpress. Next, we have the e.l.f. blush brush. You guys should know about this brush. e.l.f. has good brushes as far as it being affordable, but not so good as far as durability. But I thought I would include it because I do use this. I like to use this brush for blush. Now, this brush right here, the Morphe M448 brush, is a mix between the Real Technique blush brush and then this Real Technique brush that I use to really contour. I feel like it gives me fluffiness and that dense quality that I like all at the same time. So I feel like the bristles are very compact at the base, and then they give me more of a fluffy finish at the end, if that makes sense. So I really like this to do detailed blush and contour. it works really, really well. Like, this is like one of my favorites. That's the Morphe M448 brush. Last but not least, this is actually my favorite brush to apply my blush with. This is the Morphe M554 brush. So this is more of a tapered, fluffy brush. And I like that because I can apply the blush more precisely because it's tapered, but it's still fluffy. So it gives me that nice blown out blended look, which is what you want for your blush, because you do not want anything too harsh or not blended. You don't want that when it comes to applying your blush, bronzer, and contour. You want that to be blended, but you still want some structure on your face. So now let's move on to more of the eye brushes. We've covered a lot of the face brushes that I use. First brush you need, this is the one and only brush that I use for brows, okay? I'm sure you guys know about this brush. This is the Bdellium Tools 936 brush. This brush right here is the only brush that I use for concealer. I use this brush for concealer underneath the brows. I use this brush to cut the crease. I use this brush to apply concealer underneath the eyes, not to blend it out, but just to apply. This is the only brush that I recommend for this. I like it because it's very thin. It's also a little bit flexible. It's not too thick. I can't really use the brushes that are very thick. You guys know, like those flat brushes that are thick. It to me, it's not gonna give me the preciseness that I need. So if you don't have this brush, get it, okay? This is a staple in my kit. I probably have a good 20 of these brushes. Now let's move on to brushes that I use to blend out concealers, to blend out eyeshadow bases and apply. These are kind of like the same dense brushes that I would use on the face. So when it comes to blending out cream products or liquid products, as I told you guys before, I prefer brushes that are more dense. So this is the mini version of the foundation brush that we used before, also from AliExpress. So it still has that angled shape. It looks like the mini version of the brush, obviously. We also have these brushes from Real Techniques. I got these brushes in a set, but I believe that they sell them individually. This one is more of a tapered, dense brush, and this one is more of a rounded, dense brush. So you guys basically get the concept. So this is to blend out your concealer for around the eyebrows, and also to apply and blend out eyeshadow bases. So now let us move on to brushes that I use for blending out eyeshadows. When it comes to blending out eyeshadows, I prefer brushes that are more fluffy because I find that it is best to blend out powders. We don't want to use brushes that are too dense, too compact. You want brushes that will move with you as you blend it. So the first one, this is more so for my transition color. This is the Morphe M532 brush. As you can see, it's pretty fluffy and it's also pretty big in size. So I usually use this brush to blend out my transition color. I do have another brush that I do like to blend out my transition color, just to give you guys option. This is the Morphe M441 brush. It's very fluffy. It's a little bit smaller than the M532 brush, but it's still just as fluffy. Now to blend out more of my second color, I usually use the Morphe M518 brush. Same concept. It's fluffy. It's movable. The bristles are soft and easy to use, but it's a little bit smaller than the previous two. So now let's move on to the Morphe M514 brush. It's very similar to the Morphe M518 brush. As you can see, it's just smaller. So depending on the person's eyelid space, I will choose which brush to use. Okay, but it's the same concept, very fluffy. And lastly, to blend out my crease colors, I use the M443 brush or the smaller version, which is the Morphe M456 brush. They're basically the same brush. One is just bigger than the other. And this is for that crease work, all right? Okay, so now we got the eye blending brushes figured out. Now let's move on to applying your colors to your lid. To apply eyeshadow colors to the lid, I'm either using the Morphe M524 brush. I prefer to use it for more matte eyeshadows. It's still dense, but it's a little bit fluffier than the next brush I'm gonna show you guys. It, to me, applies and sits the matte eyeshadow better on the lid than this brush. I can still use this brush for a matte eyeshadow, but I prefer the way this brush applies it. Now, the next brush is a Morphe V202 brush. This brush, I really love to use this with my shimmer eyeshadows. Now, when you're using a shimmer eyeshadow, especially the shimmers in the Believe Beauty Nude Persuasion palette, you want to use a brush that is more dense, right? I wouldn't use a brush like this because it's a little bit too fluffy. It's not going to pick up the product how I want it to be picked up. Now, the brush that is more dense is going to pick it up better and it's going to apply it better. So this is the Morphe V202 brush. I do still use this brush for matte eyeshadows. I can still use it for that, but I especially use this brush for my shimmer eyeshadows. I'm going to display how I use it with this because some of you guys are always asking how I use the shimmers in a palette. So let's get into it. Okay, so we're gonna go in my Nude Persuasion palette, my little baby. And we're gonna be using the NYX Glitter Glue as my base. I'm going to apply it on my hand. When you're going to be using it on your eyes, you're going to blend that out using a brush. Now we're going to go into Amber, which is this gold color right here from the Nude Persuasion palette. We're going to pick some up with our brush. As you can see, it picks up the product really, really well, which is what you want. And then we're going to apply. Hope I can see. Hope you guys can see what I'm doing. All right, and then just like that, you apply your shimmers. So if you're ever having problems applying any shimmers, this is how I would recommend you to do it. Okay, just like that, it's on. All right, this brush, perfect to apply your shimmers. Okay, now that we have that covered, let's go over brushes that I use to apply pigments or glitters. So to apply my pigments or glitters, I use this is a crown brush. This is a C510 brush. This is perfect to apply loose pigments. This is a Bdellium Tool 777 brush, which is also really good with applying pigments and loose shimmers. So the crown C510 and the Bdellium Tool 777 brush, I use these to apply my shimmers, loose shimmers, and pigments. Next, we are going to go over brushes that I like to use for more detailed work. These brushes, I use them for applying my eyeshadow at the base or underneath my lash line. I also use these brushes if I'm trying to smoke my top lash line, if I'm trying to kind of create a smoky cat eye and blend it out. This brush is a Morphe M432 brush. This is more like a definer brush. This one don't have the name on it, but it's basically the same thing. I use this to kind of smoke out underneath my lash line if I'm trying to use a color like a black or like a really dark brown or any color that I'm using underneath my eyes. I usually stamp it on with these two brushes. You don't really want to like blend out with these two brushes. You just want to place it and stamp it on. And then now this Bdellium Tools 755 brush. I really love this brush to blend out any product that I'm using on my lower lash line, or if I'm trying to create a smoky liner effect, I use this brush to blend it out. It's actually a smaller version of the Bdellium Tools 777 brush. Now let's move on to brushes that I would normally use for nose contour, cream, and powder. So this brush is actually from Crown. This is like a OG brush. This brush is so old to the point where it doesn't have the name and the number on it, but I'm gonna find it. I love this brush. I normally use it for more powder nose contour, but I can use it for cream. I don't mind using it for cream, only because as far as the nose contour, I never want my nose contour to be so pronounced. So I like to use a brush like this for cream and powder nose contour. It's a brush that is very similar. This one is from e.l.f. It's the crease brush. Same concept. I like to use this to powder nose contour and cream nose contour. I don't really like this brush so much for eyeshadow. I feel like it's a little bit too dense, but it works better for my cream and nose contour and powder nose contour. Next, we have the Morphe E62 brush. I love this brush to contour the nose with cream though. I don't necessarily use this for powder nose contour only because it is too dense for my liking. So this brush is too dense for my liking as far as powder nose contour, but for cream, when I tell you the preciseness is on point with this brush, you need this one. This brush, I love this brush to apply highlighter, and also I like it to apply my inner corner highlight and my nose highlighter. It's like a small little dense, compact but fluffy brush. It's a Morphe M506 brush. This brush to highlight my nose, the tip of my nose, the bridge of my nose, and for my inner corner tear duct highlight, perfect. Now let's move on to liner brush. This is a Bdellium Tools 706 brush. It's a simple fine tip liner brush. If I need to do any cream or gel liners, I will use this brush. Now we are going to move on to lip brushes. I feel like lip brushes, you can use anything. You can even use the disposable lip wands. I like to use the lip brushes because I feel like I have control over that. This is a Shop Miss A AOA Studio E122 brush. I love this. It's like a miniature concealer brush, but I like to use this for the lip. This is an e.l.f. small precision brush. I like to use it for detailed work. Let's say if I want to do liner with eyeshadow around the lip or any cream products around the lip, I use this for that. It also works really well to blend out the lip precisely. And this Morphe brush, this is a M170-8 brush. This is a really good lip brush. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory for the lips. Lastly, you guys know you cannot complete the face without your sponges. You need beauty blenders, but you don't have to buy the Beauty Blender brand because I know it's super expensive. I use the Shop Miss A Pow Pow Super Soft Wonder Blender. These blenders, okay, when I tell you they are really soft, they're not hard, they're not too dense, they're very bouncy, and when you wet them, they get really big. These have changed my life, and they are cheap. This whole, I think a pack of like 6 of them is less than $10. So you can never get enough of these Pow Pow beauty blenders. I don't buy any more of the actual Beauty Blender brand Beauty Blender because I feel like they don't last that long. And I don't feel too bad buying a bag where they basically like $1 each and they don't last me that long. To me, that's not that big of a deal versus spending $20 on the sponge and you still don't get as much wear as you need from it. Next, you're always going to need a powder puff. Guys, you need this in your life. This is to apply your powders. If you get oily, to absorb anything. You can also use this to blend out your cream concealers. I do that sometimes, not all the time, only because it does take longer, but it's gonna give you that fuller coverage look. This, I get some from Amazon. I get some from Shein. I'm sure you get some from AliExpress too, but your standard triangle powder puff, you need this in your life. So these are basically all the tools that I use to create a full face just like this. I'm going to try my best to link down all the brushes that were mentioned in the video. If I can't find the exact same brushes, I'm going to link down similar brushes and I'm going to categorize them for each part of the face so that you guys can, not be confused for what brush you can use for what. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys would like more in-depth videos of me talking about the products that I use in my kit or the tools that I use, what I use them for, not just, talking about showing you guys how to use it on the face, but really sitting down and breaking it apart and explaining to you why exactly I use them. Please comment below what you would like to see. Let me know how you guys feel about a video like this so I can gauge what to record next. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys so much. I hope you guys learned something new. Make sure you guys like, subscribe. Do not forget to turn on that bell notification. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.